Hey everyone, welcome to the final hair-related chapter of this tutorial. In this chapter, we're going to be going over peach fuzz. Now, if you're asking yourself what exactly is peach fuzz, it's this really fine layer of hair which covers the whole surface of your body, apart from certain areas like lips, inside your eyelids, so like in this region here. On your the palms of your hands and feet, in between your fingers. There's some other areas, but that's basically it. So just for some reference, because you guys know I love reference, if we go to this website and we type in, if you just go to Google and type in RoboPhot, P-H-O-T, and then go to RoboPhot Portraits. This is a fantastic website for referencing human faces and human skin and stuff like that under extreme micro levels. So we'll click on a face, pick any face, and then we'll full screen this once it's loaded. And now basically we've got this guy's face, and we can zoom in and so look at his nose here. And there is peach fuzz here. You can actually see it on the nostril. That's what peach fuzz is. But if we really zoom in, we can keep going here, and you can see it's loading. But yeah, you can see here, this is what peach fuzz is. It's a bunch of just tiny little hairs which look like they've just had a bit of a noise run through them, and they're they're going off in different directions. So if we look at on the edge of the nose here, you can see all these little tiny hairs. You can also see there's hairs in the nose, in the nostrils, and there's also hairs in the ears. So that's another pass that I would probably end up doing, but I'm not going to bother doing for this tutorial. So this is what peach fuzz is. This is a fantastic resource. Use it whenever you need to reference areas of the face, or like what pores look like under extreme close-ups. Gives you a really good idea of how to replicate realism, because it's all in the details, realism. And I'll get more into this when I do the skin texturing and shading tutorial. So yeah, you can see here you got some fantastic reference of eyebrows as well. I should have probably shown this for the eyebrow reference, but anyway, you get the idea. So yep, we'll get out of this. And let's do the peach fuzz. So much like the other times, we're going to find the peach fuzz scalp, make that visible, and then we're going to create a new description on this. So description, create description. We're going to call it hair underscore peach fuzz. Now this time is going to be different. We don't want to use splines, we want to use groomable splines. And then you don't have any choice in the matter for these two, so they're locked off, and we want to use this collection. So that's it. Now we can hit create. Alrighty, so I ended up having to pause the recording just due to the time it was taking to generate the peach fuzz hairs. These aren't actually the hairs you're seeing here, these are the guides, and they're called groomable splines. I'm not a big fan of the way you're meant to use these groomable splines. You're meant to come in with a brush and kind of like push them around in the direction that you want them to go and stuff like that. But to me, it feels very tedious, and it feels like you don't have that much control. So I don't tend to use this much. I've played around with it, but it just, I didn't find that it was really. It wasn't giving me very good results, and it was very difficult to have a lot of control over it. So, but it's great for peach fuzz, because peach fuzz is just small, and we're going to run a noise through it. It's going to be fine. So first thing to keep in mind is these guides aren't a very accurate representation of how the hair is actually going to look. At the moment, they're a good representation of what the hair is doing, which is just poking out of the normal of the surface that it's sitting on. To see what the hairs are doing, I suggest you zoom right in on an area. Make sure that this is ticked on for once, only primitives in the view visible. So what's going to happen is when I generate this, it only has to generate what's in the view of the camera, and it doesn't have to generate the rest of this. So it's just a quick and easy way to check how the hair is actually looking before we get ready to render it. Another thing is here, you'll see there's this little exclamation mark warning symbol. I think that just means that the update preview, it's not going to run automatically. You've got to manually click it to update it. But the reason for that is so that it's not having to do it over and over again, because it's quite an expensive process. So we'll just click it now just to see what we get, and you just got to give it a little bit of time. Okay, so this is basically what the hair is looking like at the moment, and it is far from what we want the peach fuzz to look like. So if we go back here to primitives, first of all we'll set the spline segment to 1 just to hopefully speed it up a bit, and then density we'll need to increase, set that to 2.5. The taper we'll set to 0.8. Taper start we'll leave as is. Now length and width, at the moment they're showing maps, but we don't want to drive this with maps. We want to do it with sliders. So you can click here, reset to slider, and here, reset to slider. And so now basically you have a control over the length and over the width. So we'll go 0.025 for the width, 0.1 for the length. I'm not sure if this will be the correct settings, but I just thought I'd, it's like a good base to start with. So I'll click this button again just to see what our update has changed. And you can see they're probably too small now. So let's set the length to 1, and we'll do another one. Okay, now they look like they're probably too long. So now we'll set it to 0.5 maybe. And 0.025 is looking pretty good for the width. So we'll run this again. Okay, so this is looking pretty promising. I'm just going to zoom out just to see how it's looking from a distance. One of the primary things I like to look at is how it's looking on the silhouette. It is hard to tell with the guides there. I'm not 100% sure how to turn off the visibility for these guides, because this button doesn't seem to be doing what it does to the other guides. Maybe it's under grooming. Maybe we can hide it here. There we go. So that's where you check off visibility for the guides if you're using the grooming guides. Okay, so looking at this, it's looking pretty promising. I think we could increase the amount a little bit more, so let's go to 3. And the thickness, I'm not 100% sold on. Maybe we can go to 0.01, and maybe we can set the length to 0.75. Just because he's a giant, and like it doesn't have to be 100% the same as what you would find in a human. So yeah, I'll just set it to that, see how it looks. And that's looking not too bad. Like, we don't want them to be that visible. They're just there to catch highlights and help out on the silhouette, break up the silhouette. So now we'll go to modifiers and we'll add a noise. So we'll just add a noise. No need to add clumping here. So frequency we'll leave. Set this to like, we'll set it to 1 to begin with, and we'll just see what this looks like. And that is probably all we need. That actually looks pretty good. Like, considering, if you remember what the reference looked like, it was just a bunch of tiny hairs going in like different directions with a bit of noise run through them, and that, to me, is a pretty good result. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. We'll wait until we render it, because maybe then we'll notice that the thickness is too intense or whatever. But yeah, that's basically it for Peach Fuzz. I'll do one final render. I'll do one final render for the hair on the whole face just so we can have a look, but apart from that we're basically done. And there you go, we got a bunch of little hairs. Density and length and width may need to be adjusted when we get to the point of rendering these guys, which will be in the next chapter. But you can see we don't have them generating on the lips. We don't have them generating on this part of the eye, which is basically what I culled out, and I culled out the bottom just to save on the amount of hairs that needed to be generated. But you can see it gives a nice silhouette breakup like you would expect. But yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, the next chapter is going to be about shaders, which you can use and set up for rendering the hair and making it look decent. So I'll see you in the next chapter.